Doc, how you doing?
Fine. Good to be here. Thomas Humphrey.
Tom, it's good to see you.
Good to see you.
Dr. Wayne, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
This is my life.
I'm finding it to be interesting already. Just your green room is lighting up a day.
Listen, start talking. And I know you and Chuck solved all the world's problems out in the lobby earlier.
Well, we're certainly trying to triangulate is the best way to describe it. And
I've enjoyed listening to him and talking. He's got some great ideas.
Well, I hope so. And I appreciate the Allman Brothers, and I'm sure it's because he realized I was from Macon, Georgia.
That's exactly.
And, speaking of the Allman Brothers, a lot of people, I think, are aware that Chuck Leavell of the Allman Brothers actually lives just outside of Macon. And, of course, Chuck is the keyboardist for the Rolling Stones.
Right.
And so every time I go around the country and talk to people, and once I say the Rolling Stones and mention the fact that Chuck Leavell lives there, they almost go in awe.
Yeah.
So that's that. But
what a musical hotbed.
Yeah.
It has been forever. I used to try and claim it with Gainesville, but it can't hold a candle for what was happening in Macon for about 3 decades.
Well, Little Richard and Phil Walden and the whole, it's just a phenomenon that just proves that interesting things can come from anywhere.
Yeah.
That's the way to go.
Especially Macon.
Well, we have our Valdosta, few names too, like, Red Akins and Thomas Red.
Well, I used to live here in Valdosta. I played football for Lanier, and
then you should.
He was talking about he went to Valdosta football games, and I said every one I went to, I wish I hadn't.
I hear that all the time as I travel around as well. Yes, I hear that from people. No, I never liked Valdosta. Every time I went down there, got my butt whooped.
Well, it changed when I had the opportunity to come down here and do some quail shooting, so I started falling in love with the place. So.
Well, good. And you got the flavor of this trip, too.
I do, and this means a lot to me to have the opportunity to be here. Just to kind of kick in, there are a couple of reasons I was appreciative of the opportunity. One is to talk a little bit about the very significant uniqueness of the special election for the United States Senate that we're going to be dealing with in November, because, it's incredible when you think about it. There's going to be 21 individual candidates on that ballot.
So they all make it to the finish line.
They've all made it to the finish line, and the way they made it to the finish line, including myself, was, to pay a $5,220 fee and say I wanted to be considered to be a United States Senator. So if you came and showed up at the Secretary of State and you paid that fee, now you're on the ballot. And so we have 21 people on that ballot. And, of course, you've got 6 Republicans, myself, including Kelly Loeffler, Doug Collins, and then a lady from South Georgia named Candace Taylor, all Republicans, and 2 others.
We had Candace on.
Yeah, she's a great, I think I really admire, her gumption and getting into it. So that's good. And then on the Democrat side, you've got Matt Lieberman, Ralph Warnock, and Ed Tarver, and then you got, I think, 5 others.
But you know all the players is amazing. I know you're waist deep in it, but
I got to tell you, I'm admitting something here. I don't know the names of the others beyond what I just said.
Democrats.
Well, in a normal election, if it was Republicans and Democrats, the Democrats would wind up with 42% of the vote just by the ballot. And so imagining that there's going to be about 4 million votes cast in this particular election, if they got that percentage of the vote, they would at least get into a runoff.
So guaranteed a runoff.
Guaranteed a runoff. But I don't know if that's going to be the case with the Democrats this time, because you've got a splintered party. You've got a splintered 8. It's going to at least splinter out hard 2 ways between Warnock and Lieberman. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
So, Doc, it takes somebody like you, because it sounds like this isn't so much a campaign, it's a math problem.
Well, my business experience is in banking and finance, so I understand math. And I got an MBA, but my doctorate is actually in higher education finance.
Gotcha.
And so, first of all, unique election, and I'm proud to be a Republican. Do wish some of the press would talk a little bit more about me, inclusive of Kelly and Doug, but we'll get there. We'll get there.
Do you have a site? Do you have a Facebook site?
I do. It's johnsonsenate.com, and you can go to that, and you can learn a lot about me, and see a lot of film clips. One of the more interesting ones is an interview I did with Tucker Carlson. That's played out well.
Nice.
And also with the Cavuto show and some others. But the way that came about, and so just quick snapshot. So grew up in Macon, basically been in the banking business domestically and internationally, was heavy into the credit card business, senior executive at Visa, worked with some credit card service support companies. I've done some private equity stuff, done small business stuff. So I've got a 40-something year career of big company, small business, entrepreneurship, in different fields. But when I turned 60, which was 8 years ago, I decided I wanted to be a college president. So I went to Mercer to get a doctorate in educational leadership. And through that process, I learned a lot about how colleges are financed. And they're financed basically today through the student loans that they get from the federal government. 80% of all the money that goes into the higher education system comes from the federal government by way of student loans. And those student loans are basically taken out by students, or parents of students, actually. And they, for the most part, don't know what they're getting into because the government says it's okay and the school says it's okay. And then we're now set with a national crisis of student loan debt. What's interesting is as soon as I got my doctorate awarded in 2016, I met with Johnny Isaacson in January of 2017, right after the president had been elected, and said that I had been studying this problem and I could basically help fix it. So he arranged for me to meet with the Secretary of Education, Vice President Pence, and some other people. And so I was hired by the Secretary of Education, confirmed by the President, to be in charge of all the student loans in the country. So what that meant is I took on responsibility for 44 million customers and $1.6 trillion in outstanding debt. And people don't realize how much $1.6 trillion is. In December of last year, the Federal Reserve's balance sheet was only $4.4 trillion. And the national debt was $22 trillion, and we represented $1.6 trillion debt. And what I found was an incredible mess. I found an operational mess where, you couldn't even find out if you're a borrower how much money you owed, and you didn't know who to make a payment to. All kinds of problems with that, all kinds of problems with credit bureau reporting, people's credit bureaus being hammered because of this. But I set about fixing it operationally, and we got it well underway from an operational standpoint. But as I would go to other parts of the administration, I'd meet in the White House, talk to the National Economic Policy Fedload, talk to different people about what we needed to do. They would spend a lot of time admiring the problem, and I would be talking about what we're going to do to fix this problem. And then I would wind up realizing, us and them, that the only way it was going to get fixed was if Congress made some law change. So I go over there, and I talk to the Congress people, and I go over, Congressmen and women, and I talk to the senators, and generally get relegated to their staff, and I say, we have a house on fire here, we have a building on fire, we have a nation on fire. The student loan problem is an abomination hiding in plain sight, and it is one of the major issues in this country. It affects, by the way, in Georgia alone, there are 1.8 million Georgians who owe $60 billion in student loan debt. So here's the fast forward. So what I decided to do was, when Johnny stepped out, I decided to leave the department in order to see if the governor would appoint me to the Senate position, because I wanted to hit the ground running, making some change. He made the decision to go with Kelly Loeffler, and so then I had to make the decision what I was going to do, which was to go ahead and run. When I stepped out, got a lot of attention because of that. And so I'm today wanting to become the United States Senator for Georgia in order to, first and foremost, address the student loan problem, deal with some senior care issues, and then deal with some other economic issues. But most importantly, I feel like it's a time where we've got to bring reassurance to the people of Georgia and the country that our nation can be better than the current state that we're in. This student loan issue I'm talking about has got superseded by COVID-19. It's got superseded by the the racial injustice issues that we're dealing with today. But it's still first and foremost and something that I can deal with. So with that being said, the opportunity to at least let people know that I'm on the ballot along with 20 others. And by the way, what I tell people is look down there. I'll probably be about midway. And if you can't remember Wayne Johnson, just remember John Wayne. Put Wayne together and vote for me.
I'm voting for John Wayne. So Wayne, real quick, again, it was a bad business plan, but the model that they built was an abomination, as you said. You can't guarantee money on the front end and not guarantee its collection on the back end as well. So we've created this crisis, this trillion and a half plus dollar debt crisis as well. If you can solve that, you got my vote. Holy moly.
Yeah, that I can solve. And here's exactly how you solve it. And it's not me, it's us. We solve it. The first thing we have to do is 100% stop the federal student loan problem. Just stop it in its tracks. One of the things I learned living in Georgia is when you're in a hole, stop digging. So we're in a hole and we're digging away. But we need to stop. And the answer to that is, yes, people need to go to college, but there needs to be a fixed amount of money that you're allowed to go to college on. And my proposition is every high school graduate gets $50,000 as an education allowance, and it's a grant, but they've got to show academic progress. But if you got $50,000 as a grant from the United States government, plus whatever you could get from the state, you can go to college and you can get a great education for that. You may not be able to go to best college, the college of your dreams and do something that doesn't make much sense in terms of an educational payoff. But at the end of the day, you can get a good education. Now, if you're going to give everybody going forward $50,000, then you have to look at the people that are on the books today. And that's where I would give $50,000 of debt relief to those folks that are on the books today because equity. And I would also give money that people have paid off their student loans or either never used student loans. I give them a tax credit. So you're dealing with this $50,000. And this is where I very much differ from the Democratic plans. I also know how to pay for this stuff. I'll just a second. But the key to this is you've got to stop right now there's an unlimited amount of money matching up with an unlimited amount of pricing coming from the universities. And everybody's conning the students into signing up that don't worry about it. It's all going to be taken care of. And the problem is, the Obama administration in 2010 unleashed the floodgates, and they also put in place what's called an income-based repayment plan. And what that means is you only have to pay a percentage of what your income is, no matter what the amount of debt is. So here's what I know that very few people know. The Secretary knows. She'll be talking about it here, I think, before the end of the year. 80% of that $1.7 trillion will never be repaid. 80% will never be repaid. And on the trajectory we're on right now, within 5 years, we'll be hitting $3 trillion. That's a lot of money, and we got to stop it.
Their solution? Free college.
Well, I don't believe in free college. I believe in an educational allowance that you would use, hopefully, to go to vocational school and consider vocational school, because that goes a long way. You need, radio station technicians, make things like this work. And I sure like having my mechanics. But at the end of the day, there's a public service, a public good that comes from an educated workforce. So here's how I want to pay for this and how it ties together. I want put a 1% tax on American corporations. And this would be a 1% tax on their top line revenue. Of course, everybody goes into shock and says, you're a Republican and you want a tax. And the answer is, I think that we need to realize that an educated workforce gets consumed by corporations. And corporations should be the ones making an investment in an educated workforce. Now, everybody says, well, you can have all corporations run from the United States. And the answer is no. We dropped the tax rate from 35% to 21%, so we would never, under my plan, exceed the 21% tax rate. But here's where it gets real, easy to understand. Amazon pays zero in tax, not a penny in tax. In fact, they get tax refunds. I think it's only fair that Amazon should at least pay 1% tax for the opportunity to work in this workforce. And the same thing for Netflix and others. So at the end of the day, an educated workforce that's not burdened by debt can go to work and quite frankly prosper a lot more quickly than they can if they go to work and they're still burdened by debt, still living at home with their parents and all that kind of stuff. So 1% tax on corporations, both profit and non-profit, stop federal student loans in its tracks, give out an educational allowance because for undergrads, it's a public service good, and let's make good on the people that have already incurred this debt. Let's let people get emancipated and get on with life.
So you answered my wife's question, asking if there's any way that any of my loan could be forgiven. You answered that. You said you'd offer something. If say a guy didn't go to college, can he just get the $50K?
You can get the $50K if you'll pursue anything of education. Yeah.
So School of Life. School of Hard Knocks.
You're not going to get School of Hard Knocks allowance.
I'm kidding. I did enough college.
Right. If you decide to go get a welding certificate or an aircraft, A&P certificate, the answer is yes.
Good. Or a landscaping degree.
Nice, Thomas.
There was plenty of school in that. I managed to squeeze a 5-year degree into 7. So,
and a lot of people do, and a lot of the schools promote that because they love the fact that your schedule didn't quite work out, so you're going to have to hang around here another year or two. Right. Because what they're picking up is they're picking up the housing revenue, they're picking up the mill revenue, they're picking up fees.
Oh yeah.
And so
tell me about it. I got a daughter in that situation right now in the nursing program.
Yeah.
Didn't offer his course this semester, so you got to kind of take courses to wait until the next semester when it is offered.
And that's part of the whole situation we're in is the universities, God bless them, have figured out how to milk every penny that they can out of this unending flow of federal money.
Guaranteed money.
Yeah. It's guaranteed money for the schools, but it's burdened money on the backs of students and parents. One of the most shocking things is we got people that owe the federal government $2 million for going to school. By the way, if you ever become homeless, okay, and you've got an undergraduate degree, go back to grad school because
unlimited money.
They'll pull down the money and they'll give you living expenses, which are pretty generous. And if you work the system to its complete end, you can actually enroll in multiple universities at the same time and get multiple stipends. And that happens. And then the other thing is you got universities that you got a particular university here in Georgia that annual tuition $75,000. And it's a interesting school, but they figured out that they could get the students to borrow as much as they can, which limits out at about 50, but then they can get the parents to sign up for Parent Plus loans. And so they get the combination of the students and the parents get out of there owing about $300,000 a year. So
come on.
Yes. So schools have figured out the mechanisms, and then what becomes there were two of the saddest things that I've ever witnessed, or three of the saddest things I ever witnessed when I was there in the government for 2.5, almost 3 years. One, older folks getting their Social Security checks garnished because of student loans that they had signed on for their children or their grandchildren. That really got your attention. The second thing is getting letters from parents explaining that their kids had committed suicide in order to not have to burden their family with their student loan debt. And then the third thing that has really got this thing seriously in a state of a problematic situation is that because of the repayment plans that are set up, you can start off by owing $15,000, $20,000, but you could wind up owing $150,000 to $200,000 just because of the way the interest accrues against these payment plans. So you could be making your payments, considered to be in good standing, and owing more the next day than you owed the day you made your payment. And everybody says, well, that's fine. It's eventually going to go away after 25 years. That's the way the program works. But in the meantime, your credit bureau is showing you owe an ever-increasing amount of debt, which means you're not able to get a mortgage or some of that stuff. So we need to fix it, and it can only be fixed by somebody being in the United States Senate taking this on with a full focus of attention. And I had the chance over the years to talk to Senator Sam Nunn, to talk to Saxby Chambliss, to talk to Johnny Isakson, even talk to Paul Coverdale. And I asked them, what does it take to be successful in the Senate? And they says it takes focus, it takes an expertise that nobody else has, and it takes just to try to make it work.
People, Dr. Wayne Johnson for U.S. Senate, when you go to the ballot box in November, he'll be one of the 21 names sitting on there.
It's a civics lesson. And by the way, this type of election will never happen again. The Georgia legislature will change it, and we will have, when a special election comes in the future, there will be a runoff leading to a special election.
What a train wreck for the appointment to the 2-year run.
Right.
If successful, you're only in for 2 and you got to do it all over again.
Well, that's another thing. I'm really focused on the 2 years of Johnny Isakson because I want to hit the ground running. I don't want to spend a moment of time considering what's going to be about to be reelected. I think everybody else that's up for election, if you were to ask them, are you going to seek reelection? They say, of course I'm going to seek reelection. I'm not here for for this experience. But at the end of the day, if you're one of those folks that's elected, and they too, you will start seeking reelection. Now, the other thing too is I have totally funded my campaign. Every single penny has come out of my pocket. I'm not. And I've gotten some campaign donations. I've gracefully sent them back with appreciation because, I believe if I can't pull this off on the merits of what I'm talking about, then I shouldn't be asking folks.
How about that for a fresh approach?
Yeah.
Wayne, thank you for your effort. And thank you for living a little life as you came to see us, stopping at Adel Outfitters, visiting with people.
Hey, Adel Outfitters in Matheson, they're my new heroes. I'm going to stop there on the way back to Macon.
They really are. Yeah, grab a kayak and a gun and go home.
Yeah. Well, one of those I might.
I'm guessing kayak. I got plenty of it.
He's big in hunting, I found out, too.
Well, then it is the gun.
Well, let's just say I believe in the Second Amendment.
People look it up. Again, it's JohnsonSenate.com.
JohnsonSenate.com.
Wayne Johnson for U.S. Senate. The platform's all laid out right there. I've got lots of comments. Teresa Boyd, my wife, and others that think that's a great approach.
Well, thank you so very much. It's fun to be here. Thank you for inviting these two other fine gentlemen to join in.
These characters. This one and I are going to go work a veterans project today. We're going to go.
Absolutely.
Look at the vision. All right, listen, we'll take it to Jack. Whatever he throws at us is fine to finish the morning. What a great morning, and thank you guys for hanging out with us. We're Talk 92.1.